due to the fitna that took place when the Muslims started to divide in the aspect of the fundamentals, which as a result of it rendered them weak. As in regards to what happened with the Muslims during the time of what happened after the Prophet ﷺ died and after the Khulafa, the first rightly guided predecessors died from the Sahaba, we noticed that the first two deviant sects that had emanated, and when a person says a deviant sect, what is the meaning of it? Because a lot of people don't think, what is a deviant sect from the Muslims? What is they consider? Why are they considered deviant? Or why are they considered the people who deviated? Why? They consider deviant, or they consider for those who deviated because they left out of the understanding of the religion how the Sahaba understood it, how the companions of the Prophet ﷺ understood it, because they are the ones that understood Islam correctly, because they are the ones that witnessed it. They're the one that took it directly from the Prophet ﷺ in the purest form and in the purest manner. For those who go outside their understanding and their methodology are considered a deviant sect, based upon what was laid down as usul, as fundamentals in regards to the religion in which they cling to. And for those who went outside of their understanding of how they understood the religion are considered those who deviated. From those deviant sects, who went outside the understanding of the Sahaba, we know the first two deviant sects in Islam is the Khawarij, is the people who considered, we know in these present days and times, the people of terrorism who are the Khawarij. Then you have the second deviant sect that also emanated, which was the Shia, or the Rawafid. So they're the first two deviant sects that had appeared after the death of the Prophet ﷺ. Then they started to manifest during the time of Uthman ibn Affan and likewise Ali ibn Abi Talib radiyallahu anhuma. So, when those two deviant sects, when they manifested during the time of Ali and the time of Uthman, as we know, during the time of Uthman, the Khawarij had formed, or they came out, as they were co-conspirators altogether, from Abdullah ibn Saba al-Yahudi, qabbahahullah, and also likewise from the Khawarij. They all came together with a conspiracy, or they conspired together in order to kill Uthman ibn Affan unjustly. So it was a Jew along with a deviant sect from the Khawarij who came together in order to kill Uthman. Similar to that, likewise, Ali ibn Abi Talib, as Abdullah ibn Saba al-Yahudi likewise started the deviant sect of the Shia, which was another Jew who was the same Jew who started the sect with the Khawarij, same person. As he also likewise started the deviant sect of the Shia. As you know, these two sects still to this day are the fitna of the Muslims. The greatest fitna of the Muslims are these two sects. Of course, the Ikhwan al-Muslimin are the people who propagate these deviant sects, and they call to come together with them. But however, they're from the biggest trials, if we know, of terrorism, and the Khawarij is the biggest fitna upon us to this day. The first two deviant sects that appeared, that started after the death of the Prophet ﷺ and also during the murder in the time of Uthman and Ali, they are the biggest fitna on the Muslims today. The terrorists from the Khawarij, are they not the biggest fitna on us today? From the terrorists of the Khawarij, and also likewise the Shia who are now currently in Iran, or majority of them in Iran, even though they are now started to spread out in different corners of the earth. There are some of them that are even here. But the Ikhwan al-Muslimin, all they do is just gather them all together and put them in one plane, and then after that, they so-called come together even though their hearts are cursing one another. After those two deviant sects, then came the Qadariyah. As we know, the Qadariyah then came after. As the Qadariyah had manifested. When the Qadariyah manifested, what is the deviant sect of the Qadariyah, as we know? Is the Qadariyah is another deviant sect that deviated in the fundamentals of Islam. All deviant sects deviated in the fundamentals, somewhere, in some form or way. If it be one fundamental or numerous fundamentals. For the Qadariyah deviated in the aspect of the divine decree of Allah, where they said their ugly statement or their condemned, vilified, ugly statement, where they say that the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as we know, or Allah tabarak wa ta'ala does not have any will over the creation or what takes place in His dominion and in His kingdom. Rather, as we know, the Qadariyah say that the actions are created by the slave himself. Or Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has no control or any will or any domination over the actions of the slaves. Basically, to sum it up, what takes place in this existence, Allah has no will over it. He has no power over it. And we know that this is a type of deviation in the aspect of the divine decree of Allah. Because Allah Ta'ala has everything written to happen in this existence. Whether it be of good and evil. In regards to what? His irada al-kawniyah, al-qadariyah. In regards to what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants, in regards to this existence that we're in, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has His will over it. And not only did Allah create the creation, He also created their actions. However, the will of the creation, they still have their will in another aspect. Whereas they have their own freedom of choice to choose between right and wrong. But, however, we know that the will of creation falls behind the will of the Creator. During this fitna of the Qadariyah, when they came out, as we know, inside fitan, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tests the people with another type of fitan. And this is what happened with Hassan al-Basri. So during the aspect or the time of Hassan al-Basri, there was the Qadariyah. There was a deviant sect from the Qadariyah that existed. As you'll find, like we said, from all of the righteous from the Salihin, or from the awliya of Allah. From the awliya of Allah are not the Sufis. The awliya of Allah are the people of Tawheed and Sunnah. Those are the true awliya of Allah. The awliya of Allah is those who fear Allah, as we know. Those who believe, number one, and they fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they're a wali of Allah. And we know everyone from the awliya of Allah are put to trial and test. And Hassan al-Basri was put to trial and test. Whereas we know, as I talked about last night, he was tested with the fitna of Ibn Ash'ath. So not only did the deviant sects appear and were causing confusion amongst the people. So the people were put to test by these deviant sects in which the people thought was Islam. But in actuality, it was something in contrast to the truth. Then on top of that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tested the people with tyrannical rulers. Those tyrannical rulers, at the head of them, as we know, was Hajjaj ibn Yusuf al-Thaqafi. Hajjaj ibn Yusuf al-Thaqafi, where they consider him a punishment of Allah. A punishment that Allah Ta'ala has sent down based upon what, everyone? Based upon the disobedience of the creation. So you'll find that the reason why the tyrannical ruler is appointed over the people is due to the people being messed up in themselves. And due to them not being upright in themselves. So as a result of it, Allah Ta'ala sends a tyrannical, oppressive ruler over the people as a punishment for them, due to their disobedience. So a tyrannical ruler is appointed over the people because it's a mirror or it's a reflective image of who the people are. And in order to repel a tyrannical ruler, then the people have to rectify what is in themselves. And they have to rectify, number one, at the head of everything is the aqidah, is their belief system. That is the most important of all affairs. Then after that, rectify their actions. So what happened with Hasan al-Basri, he was also tested with the fitna of Hajjaj ibn Yusuf. Hajjaj ibn Yusuf, in which even him, Hasan al-Basri, when they had asked him about regards to what they do in his situation, where Al-Hasan al-Basri was asked during his time of his fitna of Hajjaj. We even said his famous statement, إن الحجاج عذاب الله فلا تدفعوا عذاب الله بأيديكم ولكن عليكم بالاستكانة والتضرع فإن الله تعالى يقول ولقد أخذناهم بالعذاب فما استكانوا لربهم وما يتضرعون. The Hasan al-Basri, when this fitna was taking place, so you got to imagine all these deviant sects was taking place. The Qadariyah, then the fitna of a tyrannical ruler. It was actuality, Hajjaj ibn Yusuf was from the Nuwab. He was from the delegates of Abdul Malik ibn Marwan. Anyway, he was from his. Anyway, just to make a long story short, Hajjaj ibn Yusuf was from the delegates of Abdul Malik ibn Marwan. But they all were upon, and they were all considered the authorities over the people. But anyway, Hajjaj, Hasan al-Basri said about him, even though he was causing all this corruption, and he was killing numerous people, and he imprisoned women, he says that Hajjaj was a punishment from Allah. You will not be able to repel it. You will not be able to repel the punishment of Allah by your hands, meaning by the sword, by weaponry, by fighting. He says, this type of punishment of Allah, you're not to be able to repel with your hands. Meaning, jihad, 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 all this other nonsense. Jihad, jihad, jihad. Listen to Hasan al-Basri says, he's a punishment from Allah will not be able to repel with your hands. He says, however, you have to make what they call al-istikana wa tadarru', meaning submitting yourself to Allah by returning back to His obedience. By going back to what is correct, not just obedience of Allah, but number one, at the head of all those affairs, rectifying your fundamental principles as a Muslim. Rectifying that first. Then, tadarru', then making dua to Allah by making tawbah to Him and repentance and coming back to what is correct and returning back to it. So when Hasan al-Basri made this statement, of course, this was the advice that he gave the people. Then, like we talked about, they didn't take this advice from what we said last night. The people didn't take this advice. You will not be able to repel the punishment of Allah by the sword. Due to the emotional arousement of the people, what happened as a result of it, there was a people who did not accept the advice of Hasan al-Basri. So they wanted to take their weaponry and equipment and go out and kill Hajjaj. And this is where the fitna of Ibn Ash'ath started. So now you went from one fitna who was the one who was tyrannical. Then you have the fitna of the Qadariyah. Then you have the fitna of, you have another people of deviance that appeared after tyrannical rule of Hajjaj ibn Yusuf, who killed so many people, thousands of people. And then we're not talking about in the thousands, we're talking about 20,000, 30,000 people, 40,000 people who killed. But at the hands of, because of the fitna of Hajjaj. And I think it was more than that, way more than that. So now you have people who are emotional. Because we know emotions is a storm. If it's not restricted or restrained by the quyud of the Shari'ah. If it's not restrained and put in its proper place by the Kitaab and Sunnah. That people's emotions can become a storm that can destroy. And it can be a means of destruction. If it has not restrained by what Allah has says in His book and upon the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, where it puts those emotions in its proper place. Which does not exceed the bounds. But however, when a person does not have those type of restraints, then it becomes chaos. Which came as a result of it, what happened, Ibn Ash'ath wanted to repel Hajjaj with another mistake. So one mistake, a person tries to repel it with what? Something else worse, or something else more corrupt, and something else more evil. And that's what Ibn Ishaq wanted to do. He didn't take the advice of Hasan al-Basri. So as a result of it, he wanted to repel an evil with another mistake. And that's what the majority of people you'll find in these days and times what they do. They want to repel evil with another evil. They want to repel a mistake with another mistake, thinking that it's going to rectify, but in actuality it's going to make the affair more worse. So this is what Ibn Ash'ath wanted to do. He wanted to repel a mistake with another mistake. So as a result of it, you'll find that he became from the Khawarij. So he wanted to go outside the jurisdiction and the power of the ruler, because Ibn Ash'ath at the time was under the jurisdiction of Hajjaj. He was in his army. Ibn Ash'ath was from the army of Hajjaj. So they were all together. And he was also under the authority of Abdul Malik ibn Marwan, who was the ruler. But Hajjaj was from his delegates, and they were all considered the authorities. But at any rate, Ibn Ash'ath, Abdul Malik ibn Marwan, Hajjaj ibn Yusuf Thaqafi, they were all together. They were all one what? Power. So, due to the ill treatment of how Hajjaj ibn Yusuf used to talk to Ibn Ash'ath, used to highly disrespect him, to the point where Ibn Ash'ath became fed up. And when they were set out for a type of expedition, they were on a mission in order to fight jihad, of course. During in the road, Ibn Ash'ath emotions overtook him, and to the point where he started cursing Hajjaj and Abdul Malik ibn Marwan. So he wanted to go outside the obedience, and as a result of it, turn against who he was under their power. Turn against them. And we know this is what emotions will lead to. Even though Hajjaj ibn Yusuf was a delegate of Abdul Malik ibn Marwan, even though he was under his jurisdiction, in the Kitaab and Sunnah, the Prophet ﷺ, one has to give precedence to what he commanded over his emotions, regardless of how he feels or what he thinks is right or what he deems to be right. We need to go out and kill this baghi, this unjustful, oppressive person who gives no regards to life and gives no respect to the blood of the people. So a person based upon this type of circumstance, you would think that it was justified for him to go outside the obedience of the ruler and to go against him. However, if he was to go back to the usul of Salafiyah and the usul of Ahl Sunnah, usul of Ahl Sunnah tells you to do another thing, regardless of what's the circumstances. Because if one submitted to Allah, and he submitted to what the Messenger of Allah commanded, you'll find that if Ibn Ash'ath would have complied to what Allah and His Messenger said, then a bigger fitna would not have came as a result of it. So, due to the fact that Ibn Ash'ath wanted to follow his emotions and give precedence to what he felt was right, and went against his ubudiyah, his worship of Allah. How did he go against his worship of Allah? That's important to say that to everyone. Ibn Ash'ath went against his worship of Allah. In what aspect? In salah? In prayer? No, he went against his ubudiyah of Allah by hearing and obeying to the oppressive ruler, even if he's tyrannical. Hearing and obeying to the ruler and the leader, even if he's oppressive. That's an aspect of the ubudiyah of Allah. Hearing and obeying to the Muslim ruler and the leader, even if he's tyrannical, even if he's oppressive. This is an aspect of worship of Allah. You're not doing it for the ruler. You're doing it because of what? You know that what you're doing is the ibadah of Allah. That's the reason why you're complying to what? Complying to hearing and obeying in order to what? In order to preserve, number one, at the head of all affairs, your ubudiyah and your worship of Allah. Because you know you're going to be asked about this on the day of resurrection. So Ibn Ash'ath went against the usul of Ahl Sunnah. Not only did he went against the worship of Allah in this aspect, but he went against the usul of Ahl Sunnah. What is from the usul of Ahl Sunnah? Everyone. It's the reason why we read these books of Sharh Sunnah and Usul al-Sunnah by Imam Ahmad. What is from the Usul of Ahl Sunnah that we find a whole chapter in? Hearing or complying to the obedience of the what? The ruler. Regardless of whether or not he's tyrannical, whether or not he's what? Oppressive. That's a foundation of Ahl Sunnah. And when he opposed that, as a result of it, what everyone? He became from a deviant sect, and as a result of it, more corruption and more evil was going to transpire. It was going to take place. And that's exactly what happened. So not only did Hajjaj come with an injustice, Ibn Ash'ath came with more oppression due to his emotions, and not letting his emotions be restricted and in compliance to what Allah and His Messenger said. And as a result of it, more fitna and more corruption came as a result of his action. He became from the deviant sect due to his emotions, and he opposed the usul of Ahl Sunnah due to his emotions. His emotions overrided what is his ubudiyah, his worship of Allah, what Allah told him to do, and what the Messenger of Allah commanded. Which, if he would have complied to it, then the lives of more people would have been preserved. There wouldn't have been bloodshed on that aspect where he would be responsible for it on the day of resurrection. More lives were lost, more corruption came, and more. And at the head of one of the corruption that took place, scholars were killed. People who are the people who are considered those who guard and preserve the religion now had become killed. The ulama. From those who Ibn Ash'ath had told to come out in order to participate in his fitna was Hasan al-Basri. And we said Hasan al-Basri was wearing that turban, that black turban, and as a result of it, when he was put in restraints in order to be forced to go out with Ibn Ash'ath, when he left out, Hasan al-Basri, when he was on the bridge, like we said, between those rivers, he casted and thrown himself into the river. He didn't die, rahimahullah, wa radiya an. He did not die. But however, in order to save himself from fitna and being involved in it, he threw himself over the river. Because he did not want to participate in that type of fitna, nor did he want to be a reason to be an incentive or an encouragement or an incitement for the people to participate in that fitna. But they wanted to utilize him in order to what? To arouse the people, to stir them up and arouse them. So to go out and participate with Ibn Ash'ath along with his fitna in order to kill Hajjaj. But if you look into the story of Bidayah wa Nihaya by Ibn Kathir, Ibn Ash'ath at the end, his plot was what? Was fooled, and Allah didn't give him success and tawfiq. Rather, he was killed along with his followers. But at any rate, to make a long story short, these are from the trials in which Hasan al-Basri went through in order to establish the truth. For that reason, Ya Ma'ash al-Ikhwa, one of the fitan that also took place for Hasan al-Basri, one of the other trials that took place with Hasan al-Basri was another fitna. A fitna in which we just discussed momentarily or a little bit while ago. The fitna of the Qadariyah. The fitna of what? The Qadariyah. As we know, the Qadariyah, which inshallah bi'idhnillah I have some more time to explain, maybe Sunday inshallah, and read a lot more what Abu Bakr al-Ajurri said in regards to them. But at any rate, Hasan al-Basri during his time also was tested with the Qadariyah and the fitna of the Qadr. How is he tested with the fitna of the Qadr? For number one, before we talk about that fitna and what the great Imam al-Alama, al-Imam Rabi' ibn Hadi Madkhali did he mention in this regard, when these type of fitna takes place, especially we know the fitna of what took place where Hasan al-Basri quoted a statement that as a result of it, the people had understood from it, or some of the people understood that Hasan al-Basri opposed Ahl Sunnah in regards to the divine decree of Allah. That he said a statement that what? That opposed Ahl Sunnah in regards to the divine decree of Allah or the divine destiny of Allah. Because we know that's also from the usul of Ahl Sunnah. From the principles of Ahl Sunnah that we believe firmly in the divine decree and the destiny of Allah. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has willed for everything to happen. And we know that His will or what He wants in this existence breaks down into two categories. What Allah wants in this existence and what Allah wants in the aspect of the religion. As far as in the existence, as we know, that Allah Ta'ala, what He wants comprises of good and evil. Allah allows both to happen out of some infinite wisdom that we know and that we do not know and Allah knows. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allows evil to happen and He allows good to happen for infinite wisdom that Allah Ta'ala knows and we do not know. Then you have what Allah intends as far as in His religion, where all of that is considered good, everything. There's nothing that Allah legislates in the religion, especially of the religion of Al-Islam, except that it's considered something that's good and something that will bring about rectification of the creation. So one day Hasan al-Basri, like we said, Ya Ma'ash al-Ikhwa, Hasan al-Basri said a statement in which it was understood by some of the people that he had opposed the Qadr. What is the stance of Ahl Sunnah? And what does a person do in regards to something happen when a scholar that is respected, that he makes a statement, and that which comes as a result of it, people will now start to spread fitna and cause fitna as a result of it. طيب, these type of fitan, like we said, Ya Ma'ash al-Ikhwa, that the ulama or the scholars of Ahl Sunnah was Salafiyin, especially who at the heads of them is from the A'imma, such as we know, the great Imam Al-Alama Rabi' ibn Hadi Madkhali, and the great Imam Ubayd ibn Sulaiman Al-Jabiri, and also the great Imam, we could go on and on and on, Sheikh Salih Fawzan ibn Abdullah Al-Fawzan, Hafidhullah. And from those who currently died, from the A'imma, Al-Alama Al-Imam Muhammad Nasruddin Al-Albani, and those who likewise, Muhammad ibn Salih Al-Uthaymeen, and the great Imam Abdul Aziz ibn Baz. All these are, and so many others. The great Imam, of course, likewise, the great Imam who's still living, Sheikh Abdul Muhsin Al-Abbad, and other than them from the Ulama As-Sunnah Al-Mahda. As we know, these are the heads and the leaders of Ahl Sunnah. That we listen and we cling firm to the instructions to when these type of fitan take place. So when these type of fitan take place, where they hear a statement from a particular scholar that might have what? That his tongue slipped in a regard, they give instructions to the common folk, how to deal with it. From of them, those instructions you'll find, especially in these type of fitan. Keep in mind, we said Hasan al-Basri made a statement that was understood from it, that he opposed the Qadr. And we know Hasan al-Basri was, what everyone? At a high level, as far as regards to those who the Muslims respected. He had a high level in status, as far as fear in Allah. He was considered an ayah, in regards his tamassuk and his tanassuk and his ibadah and in his zuhd and his abstination of the worldly affairs, as far as him being an example and a role model for people to follow, and the ilm that he possessed, all these different tremendous qualities that he had, in which the people respected and they looked up to him, especially in regards to fitan. People have to leave. طيب. So now, as a result of it, Hasan al-Basri made this statement. So when these type of statements are made, how do the ulama sunnah deal with it? You'll find that from the instructions that they give the common folk is to keep their mouth shut, not to indulge in it. Not to indulge in this type of fitan. For maybe perhaps they will enter in some of it, and as a result of it, they will cause more corruption and more problems and more confusion. And then now they will have their portion of the evil, in which they will be responsible for. due to the fact that they corrupted and caused more confusion in the minds of the people. Because once a person, like we said, he puts his nose inside of fitan, then his nose will become as if he's infected now. He will become infected, and like we talked about, these type of affairs can cause so much corruption on a person, and it can cause an effect to the person where he's not able to distinguish what is correct and what is not correct. When Hasan al-Basri, that he said this statement in regards to people had thought, in regards to the qadr, you'll find even when we go back to the Sahaba, as we know that the Sahaba, their position, especially when different fitan took place, you'll find that they always turn to those who what? Always have more knowledge than them. And those who they used to go back to who was considered the best from amongst them. So it wasn't just an affair that was just chaotic. It was a protocol. It was something that was what? Established of what to do when certain affairs take place. And you'll find different statements that it's not for the common folk or from the Muslims now to indulge in certain affairs that nobody told you to even what? To even take on or speak about. Rather, those affairs are left for Ahl Ilm. They deal with it, and they're the ones that will clarify to the common folk what to do. And even those who are from the minors and the new students of knowledge, even ourselves, like me. Those who also likewise need clarification and direction from Ahl Ilm to know what to do in these type of circumstances. Just as you'll find the statement of Abdullah ibn Mas'ud. Well, Abdullah ibn Mas'ud made that tremendous statement when he said, وَالِّ حَارَّهَا مَنْ يَتَوَلَّى أَوْ مَنْ تَوَلَّى قَارَّهَا وَالِّ حَارَّهَا مَنْ يَتَوَلَّى قَارَّهَا لَقَدْ كُفِيتِ. He says he said, give or leave or entrust what is hot to the one who's able to make it cool off. What does he mean by that? Abdullah ibn Mas'ud. You understand, everyone? He says, entrust what is hot to the one who's able to make it cool. To make it cool off. وَالِّ حَارَّهَا مَنْ تَوَلَّى قَارَّهَا. Or to make it settle, not cool. To make it settle, to cool it off. I think it's self-explanatory with what he mentions. He says, basically, it's not upon you to do what? Anything. You don't have to react. You don't have to say anything. The ulama are now going to what? Handle the affair for you. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to indulge. You don't have to open your mouth. You don't have to propagate amongst the people. Rather, it's upon you to what? Sit and listen to what Ahl Ilm and keep your mouth shut until you hear their instructions. For not for people to indulge. Because like we said, you're going to cause more damage than you are what? If not, you're just going to cause not more damage, but maybe just damage in general. Instead of good at all. You're going to cause more confusion and more corruption. And as we know, Ali ibn Abi Talib radiallahu anh used to make the statement, حدث الناس بما يفهمون أو بما يعرفون أتريدون يكذب الله ورسوله. Tell and inform the people of what they're able to understand and what they know. Talk to the people on the level of that which they're upon. Do you want that Allah and His Messenger be belied and rejected? As what you know, Ya Ma'ash al-Ikhwa, and this is a tremendous instructions from Ahl Ilm, when we were sitting with Shaykh Abdullah al-Bukhari in this regard. As we know, even the great Al-Alama, Al-Shaykh Abu Usama, Abdullah ibn Abdur-Rahim al-Bukhari, Hafidhullah wa Ra'ah, that he said a tremendous, profound statement in his lecture when we was on the Umrah. He says, ليس كل ما يعلم يقال ولكل مقام مقال وَلِكُلِّ مَيْدَانٍ رِجَالٍ. Then he said, not everything that is known is said. Not everything that is known is said. And for every circumstances are certain statements. And for every field has its men that knows how to do it. Everything I've been saying for the past half an hour, apply it now. Listen to what he says. Not everything is known is said. We know that the Prophet ﷺ, we know that some of the Sahaba, that the Sahaba used to what? Gradually teach the people of what they knew, of the level of the people, of what suited their level. Of course, they had more knowledge of certain ahadith of the Prophet ﷺ. Certain knowledge of the Prophet ﷺ in which they knew they were not what? Ready for, because they did not reach the level of it yet. So they had knowledge, but they didn't say it until they knew whether or not the people were ready for it. So not everything that is known is what? Is said. And for every circumstance is what? It's a certain statement made. And every field has its men that know what to do. Every field, every maidan, every field and aspect and walk of life and field of life has its men that know how to do it. That's the problem in which a lot of us do not apply. We know that even during the time of, and when I'm going to come back to Hasan al-Basri and the Qadariyah, because I'm going to tie it on in. Everybody knows the methodology that I take in my lectures, because I'm going to tie it on in. So we know that even Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu, that he even talked about of certain ahadith that he did not tell the people during his time until he died. That he said, if I was to speak about these certain narrations, he said my neck would probably be cut off. However, he related the ahadith of the Prophet ﷺ later on, before his death, out of fear he will what? Fall into the other prohibition of hiding some type of knowledge. So, when Abu Hurairah died, he said those narrations. Because we know that everything that Allah has sent down, a revelation, and what was sent down had to be informed. Nothing could be hidden due to the prohibition of that particular matter. However, certain knowledge is for certain people on certain levels. And certain ilm, the people are not ready for until you gradually build and cultivate them until they reach that level. Then once they're ready for it, then you tell them. Once their minds have been what? Have been cultivated to reach that certain level. So they can understand it. And that's due to the other statement of Abdullah ibn Mas'ud. They used to say this statement. He says, Ma anta bihaddithi qawmin. He says, excuse me, I'm going to start the other statement. You are not a people that speaks and addresses the people. He said, فَتَقُولُ شَيْئًا فَلَا تَبْلُغُهُ عُقُولُهُمْ إِلَّا كَانَ سَبَبًا أو إِلَّا كَانَتْ فِتْنَةً عَلَى بَعْضِهِمْ أو كَانَ عَلى بَعْضِهِمْ فِتْنَةً, as it says in the statement. وَكَانَ عَلى بَعْضِهِمْ فِتْنَةً. He says, you not speak and address a people. He says, in which the level of it does not penetrate their minds, where they understand it properly. Except that it will be a reason for it, a trial and a test for them. Maybe it will be a reason for them going astray, as a result of you saying something they were not ready for. It will be a trial and a test for them. See what ulama and what Ahl Sunnah speaks, everything along those best that what I've been saying at the beginning to the end makes sense. Because this is the methodology of the Salaf. Everything from the Qawa'id of what we said, oppressive rulers. Notice that we didn't say anything about jihad. We said about rectifying yourself first. Rectifying the people in themselves. And that's how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give you a gift of appointing over the people a righteous leader. The righteous leader is a gift from Allah based upon the uprightness of the people. See, the kuffar and the non-Muslims don't have that fiqh. They think it's just based upon what? Of whatever ruler or whatever type of gather, a parliament, what people gather, what voting and all this other nonsense. No, they don't realize that the rectification of a society begins with the people themselves, of rectifying themselves first. And number one, it goes back to the principle of having the correct belief system. Not just rectifying their actions, rectifying their belief system. So their mentality and their mental will be rectified. Then if their mentality and what they think and how they think is rectified, then their actions will be rectified. And if they carry that out, then what? Then Allah Ta'ala as a gift will give them a good ruler. But in regards to what we just mentioned, Hasan al-Basri, and these statements of the Salaf, when the fitna took place, even amongst the Sahaba, they always returned back to those who were the most knowledgeable from amongst them, and the one who was the most seasoned, and the ones who had the most wisdom. This is what we're supposed to do even during these times. Return back to those who have the most ilm, who are the most seasoned, and who are at the heads who carry this da'wah. So during these times of fitan, what happened with Hasan al-Basri? So Hasan al-Basri was a great alim from ulama sunnah. You'll find that even during the past, and it's a shame that what we are in now these days, in regards to how you'll find that, if not majority of Ahl Ilm in the past, if you find all the athar, or the different narrations of the ulama of the past, you'll find that it used to only be like statements. And if they did make statements, their statements were very little. And if they gave khutbahs, it was very short. Maybe a page and a half. But the majority of the statements you'll find of all the tarajum of Ahl Sunnah of the past, they used to make statements, where you'll find that Allah Ta'ala put more barakah. You'll find that in regards to what we listen to, and now a lot of us now we now have more inclination to listen to, it's the statements of the Salaf, of where their statements were so short, straight to the point, and you'll find that what everyone, there was more barakah in it. In regards to now, when we have statements of people in these days and times who talk so much, but in regards to what people want, truly benefit is very little. You'll find that the Salaf used to make the most summarized of statements, straight to the point, carried a lot of good. People now to these days want to listen to their statements. Not saying that from the ulama of Sunnah of these days, of course, the ulama of Sunnah have, and we listen to them, of course, because their aqeedah and everything else is straight, and which we do listen to. But in regards to the Khalaf, especially people who are fitna, their statements are huge and long, especially from these deviant sects, and now people who come in the cloak of Salafiyah, who like to talk long time, and as a result of it, you'll find that in their speech is little barakah. So now we go back to what happened with ulama, with Hasan al-Basri. And we tie everything in. When he made this statement in regards to the qadr, there were two people who came when he made this statement. We'll talk about the statement that he made. Hasan al-Basri, when he made a statement, there were two people of fitna around him. When he made some statement in regards to what we said, what was understood from it, that he went in contrast against the qadr of Allah. One of the deviant sects who wanted to utilize Hasan al-Basri in order to propagate their what? Their ideology, which was wicked and corrupt, which was the ideology of the Qadariyah. From the tricks, especially even Ahl Bid'ah these days and times, and the people of desires, they always want to utilize who? The people of the truth they have a high status with them, and they want to utilize them in order to what? propagate their corrupt methodology. So they utilize and they take advantage of the people or the scholars or the people of the truth. If he makes a mistake, take his statement and what? See, he agrees with what we're upon. See. So you have now one group who said and heard what statement of Hassan al-Basri used, who were the Qadariyah, heard that statement that he made, and said, see, Hassan agrees with what we're upon. See, you don't have to, when you read these type of books of Abu Bakr al-Ajurri, you know all the tricks and the trades and the tricks that the people of desires use. So notice that they use against Hassan al-Basri the statement that he made where he slipped a particular statement. So now the deviant sect said what, everyone? From the Qadariyah. See, Hassan agrees with us. So they utilize a statement from a scholar from Ahl Sunnah in order to propagate their corruption and to spread it. So that was one group that utilized the statement that was incorrect, or a statement that was understood as incorrect, excuse me. Then you had on the opposite side of the fence, who was another sect, or who was another people, who hated Hassan al-Basri, had something in this chat. They weren't upon the Qadariyah, but it was another group. A group that had something in their chest, something in their heart for Hassan al-Basri. It was another group that had in their chest something of rancor and animosity. I just don't like him. I just want him to be done with. So when they heard that statement from Hassan al-Basri, see, told you he was a deviant. Told you, got you. Told you he was a deviant. A'udhu billah. Made a statement against Ahl Sunnah. Khalas, he's done, finished, done. So now you have what? A people who wanted to now propagate their corrupted ideologies in the deviant sect from the Qadariyah. Then you had another people who just had something in their chest and they just wanted to what? They just wanted him to drop off. So now, listen to all this fitna that Hassan al-Basri went through. So now he went through fitna of Hajjaj. He lived during the time of the fitna of Hajjaj. He lived during the time of the fitna of Ibn Ash'ath. And he also lived during the time of what happened with what? The statement that was made in which, like we said, was understood from it that he did slip. So now you had people who wanted to what? Finish him off, who had something in their chest of rancor and enmity and animosity, who just wanted him to fall off anyway. They was just waiting for the right time for him to make a statement. So what? We got him. Then you had the opposite side of the fence who were what? Who the people who were from the Qadariyah. Then you had the people who were in the middle, who's from Ahl Sunnah, who went to Hassan al-Basri and advised him. And from them was Ibn Awn. Ibn Awn went to advise Hassan al-Basri. He went to advise him until the point where he even advised Hassan al-Basri of clarifying his statement of what was intended. And to the point where even, like we said, Ibn Awn had to tell him and even put a little bit of fear in him that he would take him to the ruler, to instill a little bit of fear in him. Until the point in the end, Hassan al-Basri did clarify, and he took back the statement and clarified it. Until the point where Hassan al-Basri, you'll find that a lot of the statements of the great Imam Hassan al-Basri is in regards now to the qadr of Allah. We started speaking about what agrees with the correct belief of the divine decree of Allah. Listen to what the great Imam Rabi' ibn Hadi Madkhali says in this regard. Listen to what Shaykh Rabi' says. He says, قصة الحسن من أئمة الإسلام الكبار ومن عقلائهم وفضلائهم ولكن نسب إليه القدرية أن يقول مثلهم بنفي القدر واعتبروه منهم وأشاعوا ذلك عنه أنه منهم وقد يكون هذا كذبا منهم. Listen to this. He says, Hasan al-Basri, and this is what he mentions in the explanation of Ash-Shari'ah by Abu Bakr al-Ajurri. He said, Hasan al-Basri was from the A'immat al-Islam, al-Kibar, from the major scholars of Islam. And he was from those who were very intelligent. And he was from those who were very virtuous. He said, however, the Qadariyah ascribed to him, to what he said, similar to what they say, which is negation of the divine decree of Allah. And they said, and they considered him from amongst them. And they even started to propagate and spread it amongst the people that he was from them. See, he agreed with us. He's with us. He's with us. He says, and he said, perhaps, he said, this was a lie from them. Perhaps it was a lie from them. From them. Then he goes on to say, وَيَذْهَبُ بَعْضُ أَهْلِ السُّنَّةِ إِلَىٰ أَنَّ هَذَا حَصَلَ مِنْهُ وَلَكِنْ تَابَ مِنْهُ. He said, there is some of Ahl Sunnah in the past said that this did transpire and this did emanate from him. Truly. So this is a fitna, right, everyone? He says, however, they say that he did make tawbah from it. That he did make tawbah. And he did fall into this, but however, he did make tawbah from it. وَقَعَ فِيهِ وَتَابَ مِنْهُ أَوْ لَمْ يَقَعْ فِيهِ. So from Ahl Sunnah that said that he did fall into it, but however, he made tawbah from it. From them that said that he did not fall into it at all. But however, he says the Qadariyah propagated this statement amongst the people. And he said that this is a type, and I want everybody to be attentive to this. This is a type from the patterns and the ways and the methodologies of the people of innovation, the people of desire. Is it clear what I'm saying, everyone? See, this is the methodology that we need to use to learn. Once you have and enlighten yourselves in these type of principles, now when fitna happens, you can peep something when it comes, and when these people start to put their so-called taghridat or their Twitter tweets, you can now peep fitna as soon as it comes out. Fitna. You can smell it from a mile away, or now your fingertips away, in your hand. As soon as you see it, fitna, I don't have time for it. See, when certain fitna took place just recently, even with us, what you do is what? As soon as you read it, fitna. Close my account, I'm not reading it. Let's go on with the knowledge. We'll wait for Ahl Ilm to talk. Wait for Sheikh Rabi' to talk. Wait for the Sheikh Ubaid to talk. Wait. Nobody busy themselves with that nonsense. No. Keep our mouth shut. Don't indulge. Keep it moving. Busy ourselves with the ilm. So we are ma'ash al-ikhwa. What happened with Hasan al-Basri is it says, this is from the patterns and the ways of Ahl Bid'ah and the people of fitna. He says, listen to what they say. He said that they hide behind a tremendous personality from the personalities that stand out. For example, who everyone? Hasan al-Basri. He said for the Qadariyah that they hid behind Hasan al-Basri. He says, and they wrote and they spread it amongst them, and they also likewise that they also written different types of rasa'il, even different types of literature and different types of treaties. And they also ascribed the statement of the Qadr to Hasan al-Basri. Even to the point where even Sheikh Rabi' said out of lying and even fabricating upon Hasan al-Basri. Because Hasan al-Basri was not from the Qadariyah at all. He says even to the point, he says that they claim now that Hasan al-Basri is from them. قَبَّحَهُمُ اللَّهِ. He says this type of way and matter you'll find that is utilized over the days and times in which we live in. He says even the Khawarij, from the deviant sect of Khawarij, they do the same thing. They hide behind a personality that stands out. From them was Abu-Shari'ah. And I'll talk about that story later. There's a name of a person, his name was Ash-Shari'ah. Abu-Shari'ah, who's Jabir bin Zayd, who is from the deviant sect in which the deviant, not him, from the deviant sect now, which we know, which is in Yemen, It's called the what, everyone? A Zaydiyah, which is in Yemen. It's a group, it's a deviant sect from the deviant sects of the Shia. They're called the Zaydiyah. Where we know a lot of them are prevalent in Yemen, a lot of them. A lot of the Shia are prevalent in Yemen. From them is the Houthiyyin, and from them is the Zaydiyah. The Zaydiyah, in which they utilize so-called, out of line, upon Jabir bin Zayd. So in order to utilize a lie against him, they ascribe themselves in, even to the point where they call themselves Zaydiyah. And you will also likewise know from the Shia, from the deviant sects of the Shia, they hide behind another person who was righteous, who's called, everyone, Ja'far as-Sadiq. And we know that Ja'far as-Sadiq was also what? A person who was righteous. But however, we know there's another deviant sect from the Shia who are called the what? So we have a deviant sect who are the Rawafid, you have the Zaydiyah, and you have those who are what? Ascribe themselves to Ja'far as-Sadiq. And you'll find that they called, or the Khawarij, hide behind them to so-called what? Say that what we're upon is the truth by utilizing these so-called righteous people. Also likewise in regards to what? Abdul-Qadir al-Jilani. Abdul-Qadir al-Jilani was from Ahl Sunnah. Then you have the deviant sect who come with evil people who corrupted the ideologies and the fundamentals he was upon, and then ascribe themselves to them, calling themselves the what? If you know, and even in this city, they're called the what? People who are Jilani. We follow so-called Abdul-Qadir al-Jilani. All these people who are, in actuality, correct. From them, likewise, was Hasan al-Basri. Going back to what we said. But at any rate, to make a long story short, to make everything concise, so we don't want to make everyone confused. You'll find from the ways and the patterns of Ahl Bid'ah, for the people of desires, if someone from Ahl Sunnah slips or makes a statement, they want to utilize them in order to say, see, he's with us. So what we're upon is the truth. But however we know, if it was a mistake made, Ahl Sunnah clarified it from the ulama and say that the statement, even though the person from Ahl Sunnah, then what? We don't follow them in that particular statement or mistake that they made. But Ahl Bid'ah like to play tricks. So that from their tricks is to what? Utilize a certain statement that a scholar made to prove and show that they're upon the truth. Listen to what Shaykh Rabi'i said, goes on to say. He said, for this is from the gains of Ahl Bid'ah. He says, because their Bid'ah, they will never spread unless they are able to hide behind someone from the scholars of the religion of Al-Islam. For example, he says you'll find the Ash-Shari'ah. He says you'll find that they try to cling to the A'imma from someone. أن الرجل من الأشاعرة قد يكون مذهبه في الفروع مالكيا لكنه ينسب أشعريته إلى مالك. For example, you'll find a person now. He's from the Ash-Shari'ah, the deviant sect, called the Ash-Shari'ah. However, in regards to the aspects of fiqh, you'll find that he follows the madhab al-Maliki. However, he will ascribe him being upon the Ash-Shari'ah to Imam Malik. And you'll find this is even in Philadelphia. You'll find even in Philadelphia a lot of people who now, so-called, they're upon the ways of the Ash-Shari'ah. But then they so-called say, we follow the A'imma from the Islam. We follow the madhab of Imam Malik. We'll follow the madhab of so-and-so. Yeah, in the aspect of fiqh, but in the aspect of his aqeedah, you oppose him. Which is the most detrimental of affairs. You oppose him in his belief. So what he's trying to say is, in the aspect of fiqh, they consider themselves what? Maliki. But are you Maliki in the aspect of his fundamentals and his aqeedah and his belief? And his fundamentals? And what makes him a Muslim in the first place? But you follow him in the aspect of what? The branches. Then he'll say, see, we're Ash'ari. No, I'm Maliki though. I'm Maliki. Not ascribing to Imam Malik this type of what? Nonsense. But in actuality, you oppose him. But you want to hide behind Imam Malik to what? Show the people that you're upon what is correct. But in actuality, you're just bringing another type of trick in order to what? Deceive the people. These are the different types of tricks that goes on and everywhere, ya ma'ashar al-ikhwa. If you don't realize and educate yourself in these type of tricks, you leave yourself open. You understand, everyone? So he goes on to say, He says, you'll find that they ascribe themselves to Imam Malik. Then the deviant sect, for example, the Maturidiyah. They ascribe themselves to Abi Hanifa. And he's Maturidi. That's a deviant sect called the Maturidi. The Maturidi is similar to the Ash-Shari'ah. Anyway. وَمَذْهَبَهُمْ, you'll find that all of them is derived from the deviant sect of the Jahm al-Safwan. Let me try to summarize. I don't want to confuse the people. Then it says, you'll find, just to sum up everything, that they hide behind the A'imma of Islam of the Zaydiyah. Where they hide behind, yes, the Tasattarun bi Zayd. They hide behind Zayd. The Rawafid behind Ja'far al-Sadiq. For Ahl Bayt. He says, because they know that what they're upon will never be able to be propagated or be accepted by the people except by tricks. So they have to hide behind what, everyone? People who are from the ulama as-sunnah, who are truly upon the correct methodology. Is it correct? Is it clear what I'm saying, everyone? So they've hid behind them. Even to the point, like we said, this even happened in our days and times. You'll find that they try to utilize statements, but hide behind Shaykh al-Islam Taymiyyah, hide behind Ibn al-Qayyim, hide behind Ibn Baz, hide behind Imam al-Albani, hide behind Ibn Uthaymeen. Other than them who's accepted with the people. As we know, Allah Ta'ala has put in the hearts of Ahl Sunnah the acceptance of these scholars. So Ahl Bid'ah come and say, okay, the only way we can now poison the people is to what? Utilize their statements. Or even use their names. To try to put it out there in order to grab the people to gravitate to what we're saying. And as a result of it, we what? Lead them astray. Once we have them where we want them, then we can start propagating our what? Our poison in them. So these are the type of statements and the type of patterns that they use. He says, نحن تلاميذ من باز. نحن على منهج السلف. He says, we're from the students of Ibn Baz. We're upon the methodology of the Salaf. We're from the students of Imam al-Albani. To the end of it. Giving these type of false impressions. وَيُهِمُونَ النَّاسِ أَنَّ هَؤُلَاءَ الْأَئِمَّةَ مِنْهُمْ. They give the false impression and the false notion that these A'imma are from amongst them. He said, so as a result of it, their type of games that they play will now affect the people. And it will affect the youth. At any rate, going back to Hasan al-Basri, just to sum up everything. He said, Hasan al-Basri, أَشَاعَ عَنْهُ الْقَدَرِيَّةِ. He says that it was utilized for him that he agreed with the Qadariyya and they tried to take advantage of him. Even though he's from Ahl Sunnah. He says, وَكَانَ مِنْ أَهْلِ السُنَّةِ كَانَ يُحْذَرُ مِنْ ويهجره ولكن حضر مرة فسئل الحسن عن هذه الآية إما سأله أو سأله غيره. That was Ibn Awn. So as a result of it, as we know, Ibn Awn had came to Hasan al-Basri, and at the end, Hasan al-Basri made tawbah. He did not what? Say, I'm so-and-so. You know who I am? I'm Hasan al-Basri. Don't you know who I am? Don't you realize who I am? Don't you realize who I am amongst the people? He didn't do that. When he realized the mistake, what, everyone? Retracted. Made tawbah. It was done. Finished. Until Hasan al-Basri became, from what everyone, as we know, at the end, what? He became from those who the majority of a lot of statements, as Imam Muqbil ibn Hadi al-Wadi'i put in his book called Al-Jami' fi al-Qadr. If you put in that book is about this thick, by Sheikh Muqbil. I have it in my library. It's about this thick. It's really hard to get these days. But at any rate, I think you can find a PDF. But at any rate, Sheikh Muqbil has a book called Al-Jami' fi al-Qadr, or the statements about the divine decree of Allah. You'll find that in that book, Sheikh Muqbil mentions a lot of statements from Hasan al-Basri in regards to the Qadr. Where Hasan al-Basri, after this fitna, became a lot of his statements in regards to what? Laying down the correct ideology and the correct belief in regards to the Qadr of Allah. At the end of the fitna. For ya ma'ash al-ikhwa, in these days and times, and I'm going to just end it off and seal it here. There's coming upon all of us to know our status and protect our tongues. And just a reminder for ourselves, and like I said, I'm not free from this either. We need to also know how to control our tongues. And know the fiqh of speaking. What's the fiqh of speaking? The fiqh of speaking is knowing when to speak, knowing how to speak, and knowing who to speak to. That's the fiqh of speech, or from the fiqh of speech. Knowing when to speak, knowing how to speak, knowing who to speak to. That is a statement, is the fiqh that people that lack in regards to our tongues. So these are tremendous, profound statements that the great Imam Shaykh Abdullah al-Bukhari have mentioned to us in this regard. Statements that, you know, if you was to ponder on it and really apply it, it would save you from a lot of what? It would save all of us from a lot of atrocities and a lot of different things that what? That come as a result of this tongue. As we know, the tongue is sharper than a sword, and it can even penetrate and cause more damage than mere weapons. And not only just the tongue in regards to that which is done verbally, even that which is done with the fingers on social media. It's still considered your speech. So it's not just we're talking about verbally, because a lot of people think, oh, I don't say anything. Yeah, but you're on social media. You understand, everyone? You're on all these groups. The first one to say something. Before you talk, before you speak, and before you type in your phone, ponder and think what I'm about to say. Then secondly, you think, how do I say this? Then thirdly, you think, who am I saying this to? You might be a fitna maker. Might be a fitna maker. Twist your words. Spread it amongst the people. Oh, he said this to me. Hey, you know what I just heard from Abdur-Razaaq. Fitna maker. Sometimes with certain people you have to have witnesses. Because you know how much Allah is testing a person in lying. So your statement, so if they try to make a statement, so-and-so is around me. And I've dealt with certain people like that. I would never speak to them unless I had witnesses around me, because I know how Allah has attested them and lying so much. That's the type of days we live in. Knowing when to speak, like we said, how to speak, and who to speak with. Knowing the level of the people. Knowing what to say to them. And knowing when to refrain and not say to them. This is all fiqh. You have to what? Take in consideration. Especially when you're on this microphone. As me, I hate the microphone. I really do. It's just sad that you know people that really love it. I hate it. If I was to be right now, my books in my library and not in front of the people and just memorizing and mind my business, and nobody knows who Abdur-Razaaq was, I prefer that. I'm just a worshiper that come clean the masjid up and go home, mind my business. Raise my kids, take care of my wife, worship Allah, benefit from the ulama, keep it moving. Move to a Muslim country maybe, who cares who Abdur-Razaaq is? I don't care. I don't care if the people know who I am. I really don't care at the end of the day. But however, when you now feel the sickness that you want the microphone, you have to do a reevaluation of yourself. Because now your tongue is more now wanting to speak until you become sharp. Then you will say a statement that you will regret. And we know the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, Man samata naja. Whoever is silent, he will succeed. The one who remains silent will succeed. But however, the person who's destroyed is when he starts running his mouth. For this is the thing in which, like we said, we'll leave off, inshaAllah, and then we'll talk more about the aspects of the qadr on Sunday, inshaAllah. And this is what Allah Ta'ala has facilitated for me. And brothers, excuse me for being tired. My voice is messed up this morning. So, and any questions about the lesson? Like I said, keep in consideration, everyone. small statements that we made. We said, number one, not everything that is known is said. ليس كل ما يعلم يقال ولكل مقام مقال ولكل ميدان رجال. Not everything that's known is said. That's tremendous fiqh. Not everything is known is said. People who are wise and wisdom that's here in this lecture know exactly what I'm talking about. And people who knows here in this crowd that truly ponder on it know exactly what I'm talking about. And from the tulab al-ilm who listen, they know exactly what I'm talking about. Not everything is known has to be said. And this is not my statement. This is a statement we heard from Sheikh Abdullah al-Bukhari. So don't say Abdur-Razaaq said it. No, we was just sitting with Sheikh Abdullah al-Bukhari. This is what he advises. Not everything is known has to be said. And not everything that is what? Not every. And every circumstance has its statements. And every field has its men. Every field has its men. For us, from the common people, for us, not everything that you say you have to what? Everything is so obligatory. What's your position in this fitna? Huh? Test you. Huh? What's your fitna? What's your position? Huh? Tell me. What is it? He said, I want to take a position here from Ahl Ilm. Sheikh Rabi'. I'm waiting for the ulama to speak. Don't involve me in this type of fitna. And like we talked about yesterday, when you hear a person start to talk about something over and over and over and over and over and over and over again, you're consumed. Just keep regurgitating something over and over and over, 1 time, 2 times, 3 times, 4 times, every day, in and out. Yahi, you're tested by Allah, you're consumed by this fitna. So the shaitan has got to you. And that's what anything, and it's not just what's going on this year, next year and the years to come, you hear somebody always talking about something. And you can tell his mind is busy with thinking about it. You can see he's just looking. Every time, it's just in his veins now. You're consumed. For every time, what everyone, everything that has not to be said, or everything is known as not to be what? Has to be said. Every situation has its what? And every field has its what? And also the last statement that we made, which is what everyone? To know how to speak, when to speak, how to speak, and who to speak to. If you memorize those, that's short words, that if we ponder on them and apply them, it will save us from a lot of problems. طيب, any questions about the lesson, معاشر الإخوة؟ هذا وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. Which one?